How'd you get into all this?
How'd I get into all this? Well, I worked in Ontario as a camp director. So I basically was working in the same field, more or less, that Black Spruce is working in. And we, on a much bigger scale, the camp had been running for 50 years. So, bigger scale is inevitable. We would service about 500 kids a year. They would come up and they would do canoe trips for 3 weeks, and then they would go home. And then we did that like twice in the summer. So it was about 250 kids out on a trip at once, simultaneously. It was a big team, 50 staff members, and then plus management. We had base camps and all this kind of stuff. And one of my co-directors, who I had gone to that camp for, 18 consecutive summers, and ever since I was 12. So one of my first trip leaders, probably 4 years in, was this guy named Eric Miller. And he, we grew up at camp together. And he was a leader of mine, and then we were co-guides together, and then we actually worked as management together. And he had a little production company in Toronto that he did in the off season.
Cool.
Yeah. And I was working at camp, not earning enough money to support a family, and going, I need something else. And I was like, well, I like what he does. That's kind of cool. So when the pandemic struck, I kind of got a chance to work with him a little bit because I had more time. And then he's like, you're just going to have to buy a camera and start making stuff. I was like, well, you're right. I don't like it that you're right, but you're right. So I bought it. I just stole Leanna's camera and started using that and made some. Well, I learned Photoshop when I was 12, like my mom, or younger. My mom taught me Photoshop when I was young. So I kind of like spoke Adobe already. And so when I got into the editing software made by the same people, it was like, it wasn't second nature, but I kind of understood the way that they thought in terms of laying things out. So it wasn't as cumbersome to learn the program as if I had come from like totally fresh. And then my parents are artists, so I do have kind of like a bit of an artistic background, and like I have an eye to for composition and whatnot. So that was like a pretty natural transition into photography. And then I started taking pictures and making videos with Eric. And we did a couple like really bizarre projects. We did the Christmas story in downtown Toronto during the pandemic, because they usually put on a pageant, but they couldn't because of the rules. And so we did this whole thing, and Leanna and I and Riley were Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Can we find that on YouTube or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we find it on YouTube? I have it somewhere in my like world.
Okay.
But
were you Joseph or were you?
There was just one scene where we were like standing over Riley as Jesus.
Okay.
And like the camera panned around, and that's like pretty much it. Otherwise, I was shooting behind the scenes photography.
Gotcha.
And then what happened next? I worked for this guy named Tom Wujek, with Eric, and I did a bunch of like animating in a really obscure animating program, which isn't meant for animating. But you can use it for that. So I did that for a while during the pandemic. And then we decided to come up here because we were just like, screw it, we're going up north. And I had kind of had it in my mind that I would like do media up here, but I had no means of making that so before we got here. And then I spent about 6 months fretting that it wouldn't be possible.
Okay.
And then I got the opportunity with Northrate to do work for them. And then it all kind of just went on from there. Because as soon as that was happening, it was possible. Then I had like a platform to showcase my work, and people could recognize that there was something of value there. And then things started to move. But before then, it was just 6 months of me staying at home going, we can't afford to live here.
So back on, you decided, what the hell, we're going up north. What made you guys make that decision?
Well, we knew
that's huge.
Yeah, well, we knew that, like, we had kind of thought about going up north previously and had talked about that and whatnot. And we were really sick of life in Ontario with the COVID restrictions, because at that point, basically the rest of the world had almost moved on, and Ontario was not. They were just like, let's do another 16 weeks of lockdown. Anyone? So we were like, screw this. And my parents were very encouraging. It was awesome. And Leanna's mom was sad to see us go so far away because we were living with them, right? And we had Riley. We knew Mel and Esker from Thunder Bay, and they moved up to Fort Good Hope as we went down to Ottawa.
Gotcha.
So we all lived in Thunder Bay. They went up to Fort Good Hope. We went to Ottawa because that's where I could get the promotion to work as the director for the camp.
Gotcha.
I had to be closer. So we were down there, and then we talked to them a bunch, and then they moved down to Thunder Bay to have Maeve, and then decided that they had more opportunities up here, and Esker could start Black Spruce. So they moved back up, and we were kind of like, yeah, we'll follow suit. And then the whole plan was we'll just both apply for jobs, and whoever gets one will go. And I applied to the town and didn't get a call back. and then Leanna got a job at the school.
Did that hurt you deeply? That you
not getting a call back? No. Well, it's weird because I had never not gotten a job in my life until I started applying for jobs up here. And then like no one called me back. Which is okay.
What was the job?
Oh, it was like it wasn't recreation coordinator. I don't know what it was. I think it was what Ella was doing.
Oh, you wouldn't have liked it.
Well, yeah, but it was.
But it would have fit with you.
Well, it would have. Well, I would have done a good job, and then also, it was more money than I was earning down south at the time, and then especially more money than I was earning, which is nothing up here when I got here. But I'm not complaining about how things turned out. No way.
No, but that 6 months was hard.
No, that 6 months was hard, and then it was particularly fun to have Alex pull up the
resume.
The resume, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that day, but I couldn't remember what you applied to.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But it was confirmation that you had gotten it when he had it in his records.
So what does that mean? You say you've never not got a call anytime you
I don't really like acquire jobs. Like I've never like saw a posting and then applied and then got the job. And the only time I ever did that was when I was trying to find jobs up here because I didn't know anybody. So, and like all my other previous jobs, I ran a bagel business when I was younger. We made bagels and delivered them
from scratch.
Yeah,
that's not an easy process.
No, but it's not that hard.
No, but it's a time-consuming process.
Yeah, it takes all day.
Yeah, it does. I've done it.
Yeah,
believe it or not.
No, I believe it. Most people have done something like that. You know, cinnamon rolls or whatever.
No, we did bagels at the university.
No, I'm just saying, like, complex baking, people give it a go sometimes.
Tell me more about this bagel business.
My parents, when I was younger, my parents were like, well, you got to get it. When we were 15, both my brother and I think it was by the time we were 15, we had to be working in some way. And there wasn't, like, tons of jobs that I wanted. And they were like, well, you could start your own business. And I was like, doing what? And like, you know, there was a pretty large Jewish community in where we lived, and that was San Miguel de Allende in Mexico,
right?
And we were Jews as well, so we were a part of that community, and there was no good bagels. And my mom noticed that, and she's like, "You could make bagels." So I was like, "Huh." So then we made a logo, Joshua's Montreal Style Bagels, and I started selling bagels. So on Saturday, I would wake up and cook bagels all day. And then it was part of my parents' plan, right? Because I couldn't stay out all night on Friday if I had to wake up for bagels on Saturday.
This is a good plan.
And then Sunday morning, I had a quad, so I would deliver them around town on the quad. So, you know, you get a knock on your door and I'd hand you your bagels, 6 or 12. They were super cheap. They're like 5 pesos a bagel.
Wow.
Which was like, Jesus, what, 20 cents?
Wow. At the university, we sold them for $4 a bag.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had known that. Yeah. I'm sure they would have bought them for more. I don't know why I was selling them for so cheap.
How long did you do that for?
Like 2-3 years.
Wow.
Or something. Yeah.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I tracked all the expenses and like did a whole thing and all that. And barely was making money. But it doesn't matter. The point was that it occupied my time and gave me skills. The point wasn't making money. So I did that, and then there'd be like a fair, so then I would make like 300 bagels, and we made gravlax, and we bought a bunch of cream cheese, and then we went and sold like gravlax on bagels, and there was like the Mexican burger dude next to me like glaring at me because my line was huge because no one could get bagels and cream cheese and everything in town, but burgers were every day. So he had to wait till I sold out before people bought his burgers.
So when you write your book, the title of the book could be "Yes, I Made Bagels in Mexico," or
and the burger guy was pissed.
And the burger guy was pissed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Jose the burger guy was pissed. Now, was he making Mexican burgers or was he making American burgers?
By virtue of being in Mexico, they were Mexican burgers.
Okay.
But like, I don't know, their ketchup is different and things like that. So it's just different. I don't know. They weren't very good burgers.
So what did you learn from that experience?
From making bagels?
Yeah, from your first business.
From my first business? Well, I learned that like you could do something you could make something happen and then it would be a real thing. Wow. Which is a good lesson. Yeah. I think. And then like there's all the other things like, oh, like I'm capable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then like through camp, then I worked at restaurants for a long time. So cooking was like normal. My uncle gave me a job at his restaurant in Montreal. So in the summers, even though we lived in Mexico, in the summers we would fly to Canada, and then I would work at the restaurant for like 6 weeks and then go to camp and then come home. And that was my summer. Nice. It was a good time. What part of Montreal? Like Beaubien and Papineau area. Yeah. And then, I did that for like 3 or 4 years. So but it was cool. I was like the pastry chef for a while. And then I moved up to Garde Manger, then Saucier. Wow. So yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. And like that kind of teaches you to like, I don't know, like not freak out in the moment. You have like there's a lot going on, so you need to like, calm down.
So how do you calm yourself down?
I don't know. I've been pretty stress resilient my whole life. I say like I'm pretty laid back and easygoing and an easygoing person. So I wonder if like, just like my parents, the way they raised me and whatnot. But then when I was nine, we moved to Mexico and just like drove to Mexico without a plan. They had a loose plan, but we didn't know where we were going to live. We'd never been there before. So it was like a pretty formative experience. And I don't know, like they were chill. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll be chill. And then going to camp was helpful as well, because like the point of the camp that we went to was that it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't intentionally meant to like crush your spirits or anything like that, but no one was supposed to do it for you. So I did that for years. And then by the time I was working at the restaurant, which was probably like 16, I had been going to camp for 4 years. So I had those experiences that were like, oh, like you are capable, like you can speak your mind, people will hear you, feedback, like all that kind of thing. In lower stages, not nearly as developed as I have those skills now. And then what did the restaurant teach me on top of that? Well, how to cook, which has been invaluable.
How so?
Well, it's a social thing, and it's something that you can give to people. So come to my house, we'll have dinner, and then if I can cook you the best dinner that you've had in a while, that's nice. There's not much more to it than that. Like, I don't know. It's like a community building thing.
From you? From what part of you? Your heart?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that important to you?
Yeah. It's one of my love languages.
Okay.
Yeah, acts of service.
Tell me more about love languages.
Tell me more about love languages.
Yeah, your love language.
Well, acts of service is one for sure, I think. And then I don't know. What are all? Do you know them all off by heart?
No, just yours. I want to know.
Well, that I'd say acts of service is probably my like main one.
Okay. How did you come to that?
What, to know that was my love language?
Yeah.
Well, I like kind of skimmed through the book.
Okay.
And like listened to a couple podcasts. I like your honesty. And then like thought about my life. And then I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what I do.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
I skimmed the book.
Wow.
Podcast.
Yeah. Or maybe I like read Spark Notes or something.
Oh, okay.
Like Craig's Notes. It's not Craig. It's Craig's List.
Cole's Notes.
Cole's Notes. That's right.
Yeah. Generational Cole's Notes.
Spark Notes.
Yes.
Yeah. That shit was useful in high school.
Oh God, yes. So useful. Try being pre-internet.
Oh no, you actually have to read.
Yeah, we had to read. Yeah.
Our teachers figured that out, and they would go on Spark Notes and Cole's Notes and would ask questions that weren't in any of those platforms. So then we had to read. So we did do a lot of reading.
Do you like reading?
I don't read anymore, not because I don't think it's valuable, just because I don't know, a product of my time.
You are. In what ways are you a product of your time?
Oh, we're really jumping around here. In what ways am I a product of my time?
I'm following your thread.
Well, yeah, but you're supposed to be kind of keeping us on track here. I'm the one that's supposed to be going off the rails.
Maybe I have no goal. And I would just like everyone to know he's trying to read my notes.
I'm not trying to read your notes. I can't read your handwriting. It's cursive. They don't teach it anymore.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
In what way am I a product of my time?
Yeah. Other than the size of your terabytes.
Well, yeah, else. Like that's kind
and
of like
size does matter.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And redundancy matters.
Yeah, and redundancy matters, yeah.
In what way I'm a product of my time?
Yeah.
Probably like how invested in like what's going on the internet I am.
Right.
And like to pay attention to that. Mostly because it has like, well, it's weird because like since I work in media, I am using technology a lot.
Right.
So there is an advantage to paying attention to the new technology to see oftentimes what I already have that I didn't know I had, because there's features and stuff that are available to me that I didn't know I had.
Right.
That are useful. And then what I can acquire that will then like streamline my workflow and things like that. But like I also pay lots of money for all of my technology and I like to use it to its fullest. So like the phone is a good example. There's so many like small things that you can do on a phone. Like a good one is like if you have like Apple devices and you have the right settings enabled, you can copy off your phone and paste onto your computer.
Yeah, which would be so cool.
And that's why like I can't, like even just that, now I can't use Windows. Like that's just too useful. I can't do it.
I've noticed, though, in the time that I've known you, Josh, that many of your podcasts prior to this one are with older people. You and I are two different generations.
Yeah.
And we still relate.
Totally.
What enables that for you?
I think it mostly has to do with the like circles in which I grew up. Like, so my family are artists. So there was a lot of time spent with people who were wealthier than us. So like there was that kind of like cross
fair,
like social class relating to people and not being like intimidated by our social class. And then two was we were in Mexico, so there was a cultural thing as well. So then there was relating to people who were different from you on that cultural level and whatnot in a different language and everything. And then well, I don't know, like it's just boring to only relate to people your age. I think it's silly because you don't learn things as much. Like older people know more.
Wow. Older. No, but you say that as though everybody should know that.
Well,
it's self-evident,
everyone should kind of know that. Like they've been around longer. Not all older people. It's not a blanket statement. There are older people who don't know more.
I'm talking very generally.
Yeah.
But I think that you're rare with that.
Maybe. I don't know. I also have a background in like being asked to push myself to like share about like who I am and like not be afraid of like saying things that people would be afraid to say, not like for like political reasons, but more like because it's vulnerable, because it's personal.
Right.
And like I've been taught that those are strengths rather than weaknesses. Like if you can be vulnerable, you can be stronger than if you are always shielding yourself, because then if there's any crack in the armor, you're screwed. But if you're just like, this is me, then you allow people the option to hurt you, but more often than not, they trust you, so they won't do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So has life taught you that? Your parents?
No,
that?
My parents, the camp. Yeah, probably the camp was mostly. My parents gave me all the tools to be primed to learn all those things, and then there was like a lot of explicit teaching at the summer camp with the guides that I had, and then also my parents sent me there on purpose, so like it was also a product of their raising of me.
You realize your life has been very unique.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I realized that like pretty quick.
When did you? Because oftentimes when we live our lives, that's our norm.
My life was pretty normal, other than my mom like did circus, until we went to Mexico, and then that was like really obviously not normal. Because all my friends stayed in Canada.
Would you? But they're going to Mexico or the circus part.
Well, no, the circus didn't feel weird because it was always part of my life. But then I would tell people when I was older, and they're like, "What? Your mom does circus?" So like, yes. But when we went to Mexico, that was like a really obvious difference from like everyone, all my peers. And then when we got to Mexico, everyone was a bunch of freaks as well. So then, like me being from Canada was weird because everyone was American there, right? And then I would go. I don't exactly know. It was just like, you know, you see like things that are depicted in like movies and whatnot that relate to your life at a certain point, and it's like that's nothing like what my life is. So it's not that I couldn't relate to those movies, but like it was clear that this wasn't the norm. But also like my graduating class of grade 6 was 3 people. My graduating class of high school, 4 people in grade 6, and high school was 3 people. So like, just by virtue of there being so few people, that's really abnormal.
No,
people like, oh, my graduating class was 2,500 people. I was like, what? How did you know them all? Like, oh, I didn't. I was like, oh, obviously.
So how is Norman Wells like your experience in Mexico?
Well, the climate's relatively similar other than winter. Like it's dry. I guess it's in the mountains.
And hot.
Dry and hot, yeah. But mostly the dry. I've been to other hot places.
Right.
And then how is Norman Wells similar to Mexico? There's like this... I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. I'd be shocked if they hadn't. But like when you go to like bigger places, there's like this facade of like how things are supposed to be. And it's like, I don't know. Like there's like this rules or something like that. And it was never like that in Mexico. In Mexico, like there were rules, obviously, and laws and stuff like that. But it was kind of like you can kind of figure it out and do things your way. And I don't know. There wasn't like a social expectation that you do things a certain way.
That's interesting. There wasn't a social expectation.
Yeah, but if you live in like the suburbs, it's pretty much like that.
So what would the suburbs be like for you?
Now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I might end up in a suburb. Who knows?
Right. So how would that be for you?
I don't know. I feel like, well, they would be garbage if you didn't get to know anybody. But if you get to know people and then if you get to know people and then really get to know the people, it doesn't matter where you are.
Tell me what the difference is between getting to know people and really getting to know
Well, you can get to know people and be like, oh yeah, I know that person, blah, blah, blah. But like, if you don't aren't actually vulnerable with them and spend time with them and learn about their lives and learn about where they come from and learn about how messed up their family is and things like that, then you don't know somebody.
Wow. So the assumption is that everybody's family's messed up.
Everyone's family's messed up in some way.
There is
at some point.
There's no such thing as norm.
No. What's that? There's this song called Basket Case Theory. And it goes like, when you get to know, when you meet someone and like a bank teller and you're like, man, I wish my life was like theirs. Like they have it all put together. And then you get to know them for like a week and then you see a little weirdness and then you're like, huh, I didn't see that on day one. And then a year goes by and then everyone's a basket case the more you get to know them.
So you've already just quickly talked about what your parents taught you and your life taught you.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it was making bagels.
Yeah.
Beside the Mexican / American fusion hamburger, right?
Sure.
In the suburbs, that's what they call it, fusion.
Oh, yeah.
Which kills me. It's in this like strip mall that doesn't look Asian at all, but it's fusion.
Yeah, but sometimes the food is banging there.
Sometimes, but sometimes.
Well, you got to try it to figure it out.
Yeah. Or talk to someone who has.
Yeah. Or notice where all the ethnic people go.
Yeah. It's like the truckers at a truck stop. But with that said, what about your own kids? What kind of experiences do you want to give them?
Well, I want to give them opportunities, but like being up here has been amazing for that. I feel like Norman Wells is the perfect size for like a 3-year-old's mind.
Wow.
Don't you think?
Well put.
Like there's only like 7 places you can go and like each one is fun every time you go there. So like, and they can't really
Okay.
hold more than that. Like I feel like the city is like overwhelming.
Yeah, if for no other reason.
Well, like I don't know.
noise.
I was a young kid in the city, and like it wasn't overwhelming because I spent most of my time at home or whatever. But like you go out and like, how could you get to know the city?
Right.
I don't know. It always seems they're so big because after I was in grade 4, I had never lived anywhere with more than 100,000 people. Never.
Okay.
Because I lived in San Miguel and then Thunder Bay. And then I guess Ottawa, but I don't feel
Well,
like that counts.
sort of. Yeah, Ottawa doesn't.
Well, we were in Gatineau.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Ottawa is Ottawa.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was only for
You
like
either
a year.
work in the government, wear a suit, or you serve the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That isn't. Are you describing Canada?
Ottawa.
Oh.
And the sidewalks are rolled up at 9 o'clock every night.
Yeah. It was pretty boring. It wasn't
Yeah,
that
it is.
exciting.
Yeah.
There
I'd
was
say
cool
that.
like things to do outside. Like there
Okay.
was a lot of access to like climbing and things like
Yes.
that. But in terms of like, wanting a restaurant to be open like late on Monday night, it was
Yeah, it's not happening.
not happening.
No.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Whereas in Montreal, everything's alive.
And Toronto, constant.
And Toronto.
Although I was there like this year in February, and we went out on like a random night to find some food.
In Toronto?
Yeah. Well, not like downtown Toronto, but
Okay.
like the West End, and like everything was closed. Yeah.
Is that post-COVID?
Post-COVID.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Post-COVID. So your kids, back to your kids.
Oh yeah.
So what do you want to give them after Norman Wells?
Well, it really depends on them,
Okay.
like what they're interested in. But I want to. Well, I don't know. I'd like to kind of like uproot them, maybe once. This is pretty big up. Moving away from Norman Wells would
Yeah.
be a pretty big uprooting. But they're so young still. Like I feel like you got to uproot them when they're like 8 or 9.
Much like you were.
Yeah, because
Okay.
then if you do that, then they learn that they can actually do that.
And make anywhere home.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what I
And meet new people when they're older.
Right.
Because if you just spend the same, like your whole life with the same people, then it's hard to imagine branching out.
So when you come to a small place like Norman Wells, you
Yeah.
meet a lot of people who have not branched out. You're very different than
Well,
a
yeah,
number
but
of
you
people
also
here.
meet a lot of people who have branched out specifically.
Okay.
It's like a weird blend here.
Tell me more.
Well, it's a super transient place, so there's a lot of people
Yes.
who come here, and then there are a lot of people who are from here, but they also specifically in Norman Wells. Even if you grew up here your whole life, you're constantly surrounded by new people, and you're getting to know those people,
Good point.
right? So you always have the option to be like, well, screw the transient people because they always leave, which is
Yeah.
a fair line of thought, but I don't think a worthwhile strategy.
And we're all about strategy.
Oh,
Okay.
all about strategy.
Yeah,
And so it's cool because here people are like pretty open. I find in smaller places people are more open to sharing about themselves.
In what way?
I don't know. Well, I think it's because you just maybe run into the same people more, so you get to know
Yeah.
the same people more. It might just be a virtue of that. I don't really necessarily feel like I can claim that it's more than that.
So does that mean, if that goes back to what your values are, that they're more vulnerable in a small place, or
Yeah, well,
Or
like
more
up here,
readily vulnerable.
more readily vulnerable. I feel
Okay.
like. Well, everyone's used to everyone knowing things about them here because it's just a small place and like that kind of stuff happens. But in a city, you can be anonymous forever if you want.
Right.
You don't ever have to expose yourself to the people around you. You
I
can
would-
do that
yeah.
here too, but it's harder.
It'd be pretty well impossible to
Yeah.
be anonymous here.
Well, yeah, you could like show up, rent an apartment, stay in your apartment all the time, work online, never leave your apartment. Some people would still know things about you, but really, you could be pretty. I don't know. Like you could go hard.
It'd be pretty hard, but you think of how many people have we got now as permanent residents?
I don't know. You might know.
We've got, as permanent residents, we've got 600 and change.
Yeah.
That's a small group of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then
That's maybe
that doesn't include
3
rotational
blocks.
people. So how many people here at any given time? Like 800?
Yeah, but rotational is going down. So I'm going to say probably about 7.
Okay.
Not
That
a
makes
lot
sense.
of people.
No, it's a small place.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So what's it mean to be vulnerable here in a small place? What have you learned in the time you've been here?
Well, those are two different questions.
Okay, well then answer each one of them separately.
What
I
does
don't
it?
think they are separate questions, but
Well, what have you learned here, and what does
about
it?
being vulnerable.
Well, I don't know. I feel like my experience. Well, I guess that's the whole reason you're asking me. Um, what have I learned about being vulnerable here?
Yeah.
Well, it's worthwhile.
Okay.
I think that it's. Well, I don't know. I feel like, at least for myself, it's like that's how I relate to people, right? So it's like I'm going to show you who I am, and then
Right.
I'm happy to take the first risk, and then hopefully in turn you can show me who you are, right? So in that sense, I've gotten to know a lot of people
Yeah.
here, like in varying levels of intimacy, in terms of just knowing them deeply. But it's been great because, well, I don't know, you have the option here to not do that, and
Right.
then your life isn't as good. I don't know. That's what that's a pretty well. I get that's also just I have presumptions here. Like I'm outgoing and extroverted
Right.
and things like that. So like I don't like my social battery isn't drained when I spend time with people like all the time.
Right.
Like I get sleepy, but that's not the same as being like run down.
You
So-
are an extrovert.
Oh,
Yes.
like I did this personality test and I'm like 99% an extrovert.
Oh yeah.
Like out of 100 people, I'm one of the most extroverted.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I would have known that the second time.
That would be pretty surprising to not know that
yeah,
really quickly.
I would have guessed it the first time
You
I
probably,
met you
like-
at my
Yeah.
doorway, and then the second time definitely.
Yeah. Well, and like, a lot of people say hi to each other here, and I feel like maybe I do it more than I don't know.
They say hi or do the 2-finger
The
wave.
2-finger wave. Did you hear about the Amazon product that you can buy for your dashboard that's just a couple fingers?
Not bad.
I know.
like
It's
it.
nice to wave, but it's a funny product.
But in Alberta, it's a 1-finger.
It's a 1-finger wave?
Yeah, it's a 1-finger.
Half as meaningful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Seriously, on a country road there, it's 1-finger.
Okay.
Here, it's 2 fingers.
That's funny.
And then if you're a biker, it's down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you drive a Jeep, it's another
Tell me about
wave.
your biking days.
No, this is about you.
Now I know there are biking days.
No, but a lot of people talk to us, your friends from outside or your family or my friends, my family.
Yeah.
We're in such a small place. How do we survive? And I'm not talking
Well,
about
it's a weird
food,
question. No,
not
yeah.
emotionally survive. How do we emotionally
Well,
survive?
it's like, well, then people come to visit and then they know in a week because they're
Yes.
so freaking busy because there's so much going on,
Right.
right? Like you can, if you want, you can do something interesting here every night of the week.
Yes.
Easy, hands down. And it's mostly free, other than buying boats and quads and stuff like that.
Other than, but then you just get to know someone with a boat or a quad.
Yeah, and then
Right.
you get to enjoy all those things. So like, I don't know. There's so much to do, and then you even just getting to know, just introducing them to people or getting to know people. Like there's so many people here that are interested in like telling about yourself. How did you end up here? It's a weird place,
Okay.
Not you, but like that's
No, I mean,
yeah. They're like, well, why are you here? What's going on? And then here also like, a lot of people have been like, oh, like you're in, like, what do you work for the oil field? I'm like, no, I'm a photographer. I'm at a media company. They're like, what?
Yeah, that's it.
That's weird.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm different in that sense.
But a lot of people, everybody says down south is better. And you're saying, well, I've never been anywhere really larger than 100,000.
Well, it's not better.
No, but a lot of people will say that,
Yeah.
right? Because all the services are there.
Well, yeah. It's
But-
like, oh, there's staples and shit.
They're staples, etc. I get the sense from you, Josh, that wouldn't be what's important to you.
No. I don't know. Like the desire to want to eventually live somewhere else is mostly for my daughter to like do gymnastics
There we go.
and things like that. But it's just the extracurriculars. Other than that kind of pull, we would stay here for a very, very long time.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's so fun. I don't know.
And you.
I'm like an extrovert, but like I don't like people.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's more like anytime I'm here and I'm like, wow, it's sick? There's nobody here.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Um,
And the silence is nice.
Yeah, the silence is nice. And like maybe that's like, well, yeah. Spent a lot of time in the woods at camp, so like that's, I feel at home there in those kinds of spaces. So it's not like weird for me to be here and spend time in the bush here. I don't know.
Would you deal with anonymity well? Because you said down south in a larger place, there's a sense of anonymity.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Would you deal with that well? Not trying to poke.
No. That's, I'm just like my thoughts are like, okay, if I imagine moving down south, it would probably be hard for like 2 years.
Okay.
And then you get to know people and it's fine.
Okay, so you'd create neighborhood.
But that's community. The same here. It was a little faster here. It was probably hard for 6 to 9 months here. And then it's fine. Just because you don't know people.
But I think a lot of people, my experience is, a lot of people don't realize that emotionally a place like this can be very strong.
Oh, you mean like people from outside here?
Yeah, people from outside here. They come from where? You're doing what?
Yeah. Well, it's because you get so invested. Because it's like, oh, like, you know, if you have a job that's like of service, you know the people that you're serving.
Right.
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah.
Actually, really well put. That's your love language.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Well, and like, I don't know, for example, like even with my business, but I think a brisket fest is a better example.
Okay.
Is like, I don't know, if you put the effort into making something happen, people are like super appreciative, like right away.
Yes.
And it's not that hard to make something happen. That's like an obnoxious thing to say, because like I am uniquely gifted and have whatever confidence that I was, given, brought up with, that I am not scared of doing something like that. And I have like, the little financial resources that I have now to be able to do, do things. But
like brisket fest.
Yeah. Like,
or helping the evacuees or.
Sure. Yeah. And I'm just not paycheck to paycheck anymore, but, that makes a big difference. But like brisket fest, I don't know. At this point, that's all relationship building. None of that is anything other than that. Like brisket fest is entirely me having good relationships with people and then calling them up and telling them what I want to do and then being like, sure, I'll support you. That's it.
Right.
That's the whole thing. Oh, and then all of the like backbreaking labor to make it happen. But
yeah, I was gonna say, there's a lot of work and sweat that goes into it as well.
Not that much though. Like other than cooking a brisket, which everyone's doing, so that doesn't feel unique to me.
Okay.
Right. And then the unique things are like being organized enough to pull it off. So like basically having one Word document with all the information on there. And then picking up ingredients and dropping them off in the right places. But that's pretty much it, because everyone else is cooking. And then the other thing is it being supported by my media company. So like doing the advertising and all that is free for me and easy because I'm doing it already. So
when you talk about things like public service or being able to give from your love language, give from your heart.
Yeah.
Your actually, it's interesting, Josh, because you're a real kaleidoscope. When I look at you, it's, bagels at 15.
Yeah.
On your quad.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm going to say again, that's a lot of work to make bagels.
It is.
To working in the restaurant camp, traveling the world, your world being very big, making.
I have even more obscure jobs that I haven't told you about.
Okay, tell me the most obscure.
I was a personal support worker for people with disabilities for
Get
like 2 years. Yeah. And my most extreme client was this. He had developmental disability. He was deaf, trans, gay, whatever, like the whole thing.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It was a good time.
Poor soul.
Yeah, tortured. But we had fun. I don't know. He liked to, because he was like, he viewed himself as like underclass naturally.
Right.
Because he didn't have many options. So he always felt comfortable in like the sketchiest places. So like,
you ended up in the sketchiest places.
Because most of the clients, they had disabilities that prevented them from like, either from like social anxiety, like leaving the house, but also like physical ailments or whatever. They just felt comfortable at home. So a lot of it was just like sitting with people at home and like making them food and things like that, or sleeping there. But this guy, he was like, let's go out. And I'd be like, oh shit.
Where now?
Yeah, where now? So I spent a lot of time at like the sketchiest Robins in Thunder Bay.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know Thunder Bay.
And I had to learn sign language throughout that whole thing. So that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a really weird person. I don't know. I'm just a super weird person.
How old were you then?
Oh, I ended that job, I guess, before we left Thunder Bay in 2018. I did that probably like, geez, how old was I? I don't even know. Like early, mid-20s, 24,
Wow.
25.
No, and I will say something about myself. His name was Randy, quadriplegic. The only way he could speak was through the mechanism in his throat. So, you know, every time he would phone me, I would know it was him.
Yeah.
And it would always start with a. Now, I mean, he did really cool stuff.
What, did it like vibrate his vocal cords so he could talk? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Stephen Hawking? No, not like Stephen Hawking.
Not quite. No.
That's a full robot voice.
Yeah, this was like he knew it was him. Now he did some pretty cool things. He wrote songs.
Did he sing in the songs?
No. Now this was a long time ago. He wrote a song
I'm
for
going straight to hell.
a band called Loverboy, and we got to party with Loverboy. But he thought we had to go dressed up for Halloween to this thing, so he figured he'd be Paul McCartney and I'd be Linda McCartney. Well, didn't think he really could pull off Paul in his wheelchair, but he thought he could. He was that guy.
Okay,
right?
Great. I love the confidence.
The confidence.
Yeah,
It was
and
like,
if you have the confidence, you can. He could. Did he pull off Paul?
He did. It was interesting. Yeah, but I remember one time he called me, Josh, and I could tell it was him because I could hear that, and he said, "I'm going skydiving."
Awesome.
And I, of course, and I still remember this so clearly. I paused and I said, Randy, like, should you? And then, and he goes, what have I got to lose?
Yeah. Well, of course he should.
Yeah, of course he should.
Yeah.
But that's something that he taught me. What have I got to lose? Like,
Yeah.
Really?
For sure.
So what did you learn from yours?
From the support work?
Yeah.
In
a sketchy place in Thunder Bay.
Yeah. What did I learn?
And Thunder Bay does sketchy all on its own. Really,
yeah,
really well.
Yeah, they're rough around the edges.
Yeah, they.
Well, I learned ASL, kind of. I learned. I don't know what I speak actually.
Okay.
Because he taught me, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like I learned patience and like just kind of like being like, okay, like this is where we are. Or I don't know. It was like I think mostly patience.
Okay.
And yeah, just patience. I don't know. But I still pushed him to grow.
Okay.
Well,
in what way?
Well, I don't know. I was like, your house is a mess. Let's clean it up. And then he was like mad that we were doing that. And then after he's like, oh, this is better.
Okay.
And I don't know. It was cool talking to him.
So
he was totally whack, but
totally whack. No kidding.
Yeah. I always knew when he would call me because it was a video call. Then he'd be signing into the phone. And I'm
so
like,
it's similar.
He called me like 2 years later and then he was signing, and I was like, dude, I don't speak sign language anymore, really.
Yeah, and again, those lessons are more important looking back at them. Yeah, I find.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other weird jobs I had, or things that. Well, Leanna and I traveled to Asia for a year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where?
Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand, and then
nice.
Hong Kong for 2 months.
Nice.
Yeah, which was sweet.
Really nice.
Yeah.
And that was pre-Riley.
That was pre-Riley. Yeah. That was the like make it or break it trip.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten into Leanne.
No.
Marriage. But I want to know, back to Norman Wells. What legacy do you want to leave here?
Well, I don't know. I want to have a continued presence. I feel like it's a worthwhile place for that. Like my life might pull me away from here, but it doesn't mean that I don't think that I'm not convinced I need to stop serving the place if I leave.
Wow. Right on.
Yeah.
As long as you got your big terabytes.
Yeah. Well, like
have terabytes.
I know that this is something that is useful here, and I hope that this is some. Well, and like like one of the aims of my business is to help portray the North the way the North wants to be portrayed.
Wow.
Or I don't know. Like that's probably not completely genuine. I want to portray the North. I want to help portray the North for my clients the way that they want to be portrayed, but like with high production quality, because oftentimes there's like low production quality, and no one wants to watch low production quality.
So why did you say the first wasn't?
Well, because I don't want to claim to know exactly how the
Right.
North wants to be portrayed.
Right.
I can understand how my client wants to portray what they're doing, but they don't represent the North.
Do you think that you are in any way representative of the North?
Like,
Have you
maybe-
been here long enough?
well, I don't know if being here long enough necessarily means that I don't think at a certain point you qualify because of time.
Okay.
I think it's more like a spirit.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, it would be like, are you willing to like sacrifice those like everyday comforts to live somewhere extraordinary and invest? Like in that sense, sure, I'm representative of that spirit, but there's tons of different spirits up here.
Okay, so of that spirit, are you willing to experience?
I'm willing to leave what I know to go somewhere new, and leave, I don't know, the comforts of the South behind,
Right.
to then, have an adventure up here and invest in the
Okay.
community. So in that sense, I'm representative of that part of the North, because there is
That's
that part of the
interesting.
North.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. And you say invest. Are you vested?
Am I vested?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate? Because I don't understand.
There are those of us, there are those of us who, okay. I remember having dinner pre-COVID, which, again, we were all very different pre-COVID.
Here, you're having dinner?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I was having dinner with
I don't know this place pre-COVID.
No, you don't.
No.
Actually, very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different. But with Senator Anderson, at the
I've met her.
yeah, you've met her. I like her. She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were at the Heritage when they had a restaurant that was open all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anyway, and I had said, well, I think that one thing that I have found is that most people come up here to exploit the North, or many people do.
Mm.
And she goes, you tell me how you're different.
Well, yeah, I'm not.
No, I'm not saying you are
Well,
that person,
sure.
but it was a moment again for me.
Yeah.
Where I went, well, I am different. And she goes, well, no, you're here to make money.
Yeah.
So how are you different?
Well, I don't necessarily claim to be different in that sense.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But you can help create things up here and make
Right.
money. Or you can just make money. I don't know.
So
Like-
you're mentoring a young person.
Yeah,
from
I'm
here.
mentoring a young person. I started a business. I invested in the economy. I bought a house.
Right.
That makes me a little different than like
It
a
does.
rotational worker.
It wasn't a no.
No, yeah.
But it was interesting her view.
Totally. Well, she's right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So do you think that?
But people are like, well, where's your home? It's like, well,
good
I don't
point.
have a home.
No, it's interesting when you say I don't have a home. Why? Why?
Well,
do you say
because my home was Toronto, but
Yeah.
like I actually am kind of like physically allergic to Ontario, as weird as that sounds, because of the humidity, and I get like really bad eczema, so I can't live there. Plus, my my family left there, like my direct family,
Mhm.
and then Mexico's not my home because I can move there and I can live there, and it does feel like home in some ways, but like I don't have career options there. I don't have I don't have citizenship or anything like that in Mexico. My family's there, and through them I could get permanent
Right.
residency, but I don't really have a means of earning there. And then Thunder Bay was home for a little bit, but we've been gone long enough that it's not home anymore.
Right.
This feels like home right now because that's where we are, and this is where we are, and this is where we've invested. So I don't really have a home. I don't.
Define home.
Well, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's in the way that I'm thinking about it in this moment, I'm thinking about people who live here, who have lived here their whole life. Norwalls is clearly home, or whatever. My whole family's up here, across the Sawtooth.
Right.
I don't have a place like that.
Because it was interesting. You said to me earlier that you feel that your children can learn to make anywhere home.
Yeah,
Right. It sounds like
it's a
you've
coping
learned-
mechanism.
It's a cope. Well, it is. But you're also talking to me. I moved 13 times when I was
Totally.
before my parents ran away from home.
Yeah,
Right. And left me alone. And I say that tongue in cheek. But the point is I learned to make anywhere home.
Mm-hmm.
But what is home?
Well, I think it is. Well, I look at like community so much more than home.
Okay.
So like it's like, oh, we have like the reason it will eventually be hard to leave North Wells is that we have such a nice community up here.
Good point.
Right. And like I have community other places, but like not like I have here, you know.
Good point.
So, and like I'm not convinced that this, well, no. What I am convinced of is that you can make community anywhere. Because so far everywhere I've gone, pretty much other than Gatineau,
Yeah,
I've been able to make community. And I was close there.
Well, then I'm going to say you're one of the rare people who could have accomplished that.
Well, no, it was more like the greater Ottawa area or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I like living here because everything's so small and close. Like you don't have to go very far for everything. It's nice, but you're also remote, so you're like really far, but not far.
Do you like the remote part?
Yeah, I do. It's
Why?
Extreme. I don't know. I'm an extremist.
You're an extremist.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. You're an extremist because
I think we need to recapture that word because everyone says extremists. They're talking about like political extremists or whatnot, but I think it's just people who do things extremely. Like you know, Simon, extremist.
Oh yeah, Simon, totally. I thought we weren't going to talk about individual people, but yeah.
No, but he's an extremist. Like,
He is.
come on, like someone denied that. Come on, like seriously.
But he's an extremist. I can
Yeah,
like him.
everything
respect.
he does to the extreme.
Everything.
Yeah,
and you didn't know
it's
before.
such a nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much nicer definition of that word, I think, than how it's used colloquially.
So, will you take friendships with you when you leave?
Oh yeah, definitely. Obviously.
Have you taken friendships? You followed friends up here.
Followed friends up here, still have friends in Thunder Bay, still
Yeah.
keep in touch with people from Ottawa. I keep in touch with people very well. I've been told that before. Like, I'll just call people randomly without giving them any warning. But it's how else are you supposed to do it? Hey, do you want to chat at 2 p.m. next week? Oh, let me check my calendar. How boring.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I hate that.
I'm not doing
I can make
that.
time for you. No, I'm in the mood for you now.
Yeah,
not later.
exactly. And yeah, it's a more authentic way of having a friendship because if you have a true friendship, you don't schedule your meetings.
Okay, I was going to stay away from politics.
Oh, were you? Well, it looks like our time is up here.
Is our time up? How much time do we have?
We have 2 more minutes.
Are you serious? We've already been at this?
We've been at it for just a... Well, you tricked me into starting, so...
But I find it interesting that I think family is your home.
Well, yeah.
Where your family is.
Yeah.
And that brings Leanna.
Well, certainly. Leanna and my kids. Like,
Right.
obviously, they're my priority.
Yeah, wherever you are. And
Yeah.
if they're with you, whether it's out in the bush or it's in Toronto. I had a friend of mine in the Yukon, and my home in the Yukon is in the St. Elias. It's in Kluwani Park, the St. Elias mountain range. And we were out on a trail, and he said, Cathy, downtown Toronto is more dangerous than this.
Oh,
But
yeah.
a lot of people would choose to be downtown Toronto and think they're safe.
No, it's way more dangerous.
Right, it's way more dangerous.
Humans are the most dangerous creatures on the planet. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly, they really are. And
Yeah.
when he said that, he said we could bump into a grizzly, but we know how to deal with a grizzly, right? But if you bump into a person, you don't know you don't know.
Well, yeah. I have trouble with that argument because it's
Okay.
like, well, would you rather? What was this thing where they were? I watched this thing where they're asking women if they would rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear, and most of them said bear, and I was like, that's a crazy.
No, I can't go there. I mean, that's there you go, being reductive again. No.
Well, no, that's not me. Well, it's
yeah.
a similar question, but like, am I gonna
Little
run into a
different.
grizzly bear? Maybe, pretty unlikely. We could probably scare it away.
That's it.
But in downtown Toronto, there's like so many people. Who knows what's gonna happen?
That's
I
the
don't know.
point.
Yeah,
There's more.
there's way more options of things go wrong in Toronto.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when he told me that, I thought,
There's
whoa, I
also
never
way
thought
more
of it
options
that
for
way.
help, though.
Yeah, but at the same time,
You can die quickly, but
okay, okay, we're not going to go. I was telling this story just sort of as an overarching
yeah.
story. So whether you are part of it all here or not,
Yeah.
I know full well that if I had a problem, I could pick up the phone and someone would help me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know that when I'm downtown Toronto.
Yeah, especially yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm
fair.
saying.
That's fair.
You know, now you have your family.
Yeah.
And your mom and dad are up here visiting,
Right
which
now,
is
yeah.
huge.
Which is awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And they're here for how long?
Till Wednesday. They've been here for almost 2 weeks.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Is this the first time they've come up?
Yeah, and we didn't expect that they would be able to come up. It's so far they have work to do and things like that. So this is actually a pretty big surprise that it worked out so well.
And they like it.
Oh my God, they're having a great time. Obviously. How could they not?
How could they? How do you stay so positive, Josh?
Me? I don't know.
I'm an old cynical person.
Well,
You're
yeah.
not. How do you?
You think I'll get there one day?
No,
No.
I want to know your values. I want to know your core values.
And
we will go overtime.
That's okay. How do I stay positive? I think it's just my nature. I don't know.
It's going to take work.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of work, but like, I have a mentality that's just like, well, would I rather? Do I want to just like sit there and accept my fate? No.
Okay, there.
Right. Why do that?
I like that.
I have a lot of agency in the situation. Everyone does, whether they know it or not.
So,
what?
So in other words, like Randy said to me, what have I got to lose?
Well, no, I know what I have to lose, but it doesn't mean
Okay.
that I shouldn't risk it.
Wow.
Right? Because if you don't risk, well, it's like, what's that thing? You lose 100% of the opportunities that you don't try for.
Okay, I like that.
You know?
I like that.
So it's like, oh, should we go to the sandbar tonight? Well, no, because the boat might flip and we might all drown. Well, let's just stay home.
Well put. Actually, no, that's really well put.
Yeah. So it's like, well, what are you going to live? Like a full, interesting life full of risk? But, well, here's the thing. It's better to teach your kids to be competent than safe.
Can you explain that?
If you prioritize safety over everything, then your kids won't learn how to deal with risks.
Right.
But if you make people competent, then they can manage risks, and then they can do the things that people didn't think they could do because they can manage risks.
Holy shit. Sorry, you're going to edit. That's why you
You
didn't
can
like
say shit.
Ontario.
Yeah.
Because Ontario, they think they can mitigate all this.
Why? It's so boring.
So boring. God forbid.
It is so
anything be
boring.
boring.
It's so boring. Yeah, they do think
Yeah.
you can mitigate all risks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, but if you just mitigate all risks, then you're just going to be in this like sterile bubble and nothing ever changes.
Wow.
Super boring.
Wow. I like that. So values.
Yeah.
Core value. Give
Yeah.
me two of them.
Oh,
Excuse me.
speaking the truth as much as you can. And what is the other core value? 2 core values. Well, I think just being like completely honest,
Okay.
as much, even when it feels like the easier thing to do is lie, you should still be truthful.
Wow.
Because I think that the best version of what can happen will be through telling the truth,
Wow.
even if it's harder for you.
Tell me one of the most difficult times you've had telling
Oh,
the truth.
Jesus. Well, to do that, you're gonna have to do the same. You have to answer the same question.
No, that wasn't our deal when we went into
Well,
this.
yeah, no, but things change.
I warned you.
You got to
though,
take risks
I warned
for
you.
things to be interesting.
My life is extremely interesting. I'm waiting for my life to get boring. Oh God, that'll kill me.
Yeah, you'll
But,
die
yeah.
immediately.
Oh, I will.
You're gonna have to take up golf or something.
Oh, boring. Oh, golf is one of the most boring
Less
games.
boring than sitting at home doing nothing.
No, at least when I'm sitting at home, I can think. But when
You
I'm
can
like,
think when you play golf.
oh, I
I've
hate
never played golf for the record.
Oh God, you'd hate it.
I don't know. I can
Chasing
get
this little ball around. It's really, really, really no.
this is the cynic in you.
Are you going to be cynical? Do you ask me that? You're an optimist. You remind me of a dandelion, by the way.
Really? Yeah,
In
just
a
because
good
you can
way.
grow everywhere
Well, no, you're that dandelion that pushes up through
between the pavement. Yeah.
No, you push the pavement up,
Oh yeah.
which is pretty cool.
I gotta lift the pavement up with me. You know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring everyone
And
up.
then we weed whack your head off one day, and then you pop back up the next, which is really awesome. It really is, and it's contagious.
Well, hopefully.
It really is.
Yeah.
No, it's contagious. And old cynical people like me need that.
Mm.
What about being open-minded? Is that one of your
Yeah,
values
yeah,
as
yeah,
well?
yeah. Definitely being open-minded. I was struggling to think of what
Yeah.
two values were, but yeah, being open-minded is huge. And then also I have a value of like feedback, so it's like I'm gonna tell you what I
Yes.
think, and I'm gonna push you to grow, and like I expect the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're not afraid of feedback.
Well, no, it's like if you're afraid of feedback, then you're limiting all possibility of growing up.
Wow. Now, that is a generational difference, by the way.
Being afraid of feedback. The feedback thing is a more modern thing.
Yeah, it's your generation, by the way, loves feedback. You crave feedback. I do too, but
Yeah,
my
yeah.
generation didn't,
Yeah,
right? You know,
but it's not well. Like maybe my generation craves feedback, but a lot of people don't want feedback who are my generation.
oh, that hasn't been my experience, but okay.
Well, it's nice. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for my generation. I'm a super weird, random one.
You are, but there's some, so you are random, and that's one reason I like you so much. But I like your randomness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's patterns to your randomness, but that's not for this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was I saying? Feedback. Why do I like feedback? Well, I just like to know what's happening.
That's interesting.
Right. So it's like if I tell you, well, and also being like offended by feedback, it's like that's so boring. Like if it's honest, true feedback, you can get feedback that's bullshit, and
But you can usually read behind it.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
generally you can tell because you know when it's good feedback,
Yeah.
and then it strikes a chord, and then you're like, oh, you're like kind of speechless.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, maybe I should pay attention to that one. And if someone gives you
Yeah.
feedback and you're just like, yeah, okay, like either it's something that you already know that you're working on, or it's not useful.
So I won't push you on when we're giving me an example of when it was difficult.
I don't have one. Like, I don't know, a difficult time, to be honest. I worked as a summer camp director and I had to give feedback a lot. So like
Yeah, to kids.
there'd be to young staff.
Oh,
So you go,
That's
you know,
hard.
you really screwed this trip up.
that's a hard one.
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier to say, you know, like you did well, but there's some room for growth. And it's like, no, you really screwed this up. You can do better. I know you can do better, but this one you really screwed up. And these are the reasons why. I think that's so much like more. I think that has so much more love in it than the other way around.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I would agree with you.
Yeah,
A lot of people would think the soft approach. Oh, sorry.
that's okay.
The soft approach, you know, putting
I
Vaseline around the edges would be the way that is more loving
yeah, I don't believe that.
because it doesn't make you competent.
Well, yeah, well, and like humans are so resilient. Have you seen us?
Yes, that's why
It's
we're
like,
still on the planet.
That's why we're still
guys.
here. Yeah, and going to another planet, maybe. Who knows,
Yeah.
right? Like so.
Well, Elon is.
Well, but other people will go too. The point being is like,
I
kids
had to-
can take so much more than they get credit for. Like there are kids who like were born during World War II and like in
Yes.
the bullshit and made it out and then grew up and had successful lives.
Yes.
And it's like, what, now you can't say no to your kids because it's too traumatizing? Give me a break. There's kids whose parents were murdered in front of them and then they still had decent lives.
If they have some support after.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
Or the right kind of
Or
support.
the right kind of support. And
agree.
other examples where they didn't have the right kind of support and they
Yes.
still ended up in the right
Yes.
place. So point being is like, I think you should push your kids to grow. I think you shouldn't make things
Right on.
easy for them. I think that you should encourage them to, well, at least as a father, I think that I should encourage them to go out and like, you know, challenge themselves.
Which is nothing you wouldn't do yourself.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I think that all you have to do is watch a child learn how to walk. And you can see how, I mean,
Yeah,
like,
they're willing to
really?
take the risk.
Yeah, like that's a huge risk. I mean, every time you see
You could
them, they
hit your
keep
head.
fall-
You did hit your head 50 times
Right.
learning how to walk. You know?
Right. So, I mean, and we're still on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
So that leads me to my last question.
Okay.
Which is what legacy, and I don't really like the word legacy.
Sounds like I'm going to die.
No, but well, we all die. I mean, God has a kill plan for every
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
us, right? But I mean, what, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say, legacy do you want to leave when you are gone? Not just from Norman Wells, but when you're
My
gone.
life?
Yeah, your life.
Oh, I don't know. It has to be so grandiose. Like it's more just
Okay,
like
good.
having had It would be nice if when I pass, people look back on my life and you go, you know what? He had an impact on me. That's
right
it.
on. Right on. Right on.
Yeah.
I like that. So you want that, I mean, on your tombstone, it doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. He had an impact on me.
Sure.
I like that. No, but I like that.
No, I like that too.
Sort of
I don't
sums it
know.
up.
I don't know what I would inscribe on the tombstone. I feel like there's a
Yeah.
better joke to put on there or something like that.
Well,
but
mine's going to say too late to turn back now, but I mean, that's... But again,
That's pretty good.
I don't want a tombstone. I'm curious, like from your perspective now, where you have more life ahead of you
Yeah.
than you have behind you,
Yeah.
and you have young children, and
Well, I also believe that we have no idea how, like, the only thing that is really going to limit your life is your own imagination,
I agree.
right? So, like, if you believe thoroughly that you can't be more than you are now, you will manifest that. So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, even my business now is like more than I could have imagined. So,
And you want to continue with the business?
well, yeah, we'll keep going.
No, but I mean, but if a new adventure were to present itself,
It depends on the adventure.
okay.
But like if someone's like, oh, like, would you change jobs in the future? As right now, I'm like, nah. Like, as
Okay.
far as I can tell, I'm not applying for a job ever again.
Wow, right on,
I prefer that.
right on,
Yeah.
right on, because someone else would be your master.
Well, I don't know. I don't like writing resumes.
Tell you what, because you allowed me to do this, I'll write your resume for you.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or a
Can you have a
CV.
live one going? So everything that, like, can you update it like weekly? Just so that it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, it's good if you're looking for new work. If you have,
There's actually a pretty
portfolio.
good start in your guys' records at the town, so you can start
Okay,
there.
Josh, thank you.
Yeah,
This
thank
was
you,
great.
Cathy. That was fun.
That was fun, actually.